you'll see a notification on screen just to let you know that this will be posted on the Turn It On YouTube channel, which is also available through Microsoft. If you do decide to unmute your mic and say anything today, remember that it will be recorded, and the same goes if you turn your camera on. We will start today's session having a look at the MIE applications, and then we'll move on to looking at Minecraft Education Edition itself. So in the previous sessions, we've looked at various apps that could be used in your application, and today is no different. We'll have a look at Minecraft itself. It's one of those crucial elements of putting in an MIE application, thinking about how you're going to make your classroom more accessible, making that engaging learning which draws students in, but also reducing teacher workloads. And Minecraft Education Edition will do all of those for you as we go through today. Just stepping 1 minute back and having a look at the application process itself. It's now been formally published as of the end of last week how this year's applications are going to run, and they are slightly different to the previous years. We want to make sure that we updated you on that because in previous sessions we've discussed about the old format, and there is now an amended format. We wanted to make sure that you're aware of just how you can successfully submit your application if you wish to. As always, these resources will be available in the MIE team at the end of the session, and that team will be updated later, so you can go and pick those up. The first thing you need to do is make sure that you've signed up to the Microsoft Education Center. The Education Center itself can easily be found by opening up a web browser and then searching for Microsoft Education Center. I will pop it into the chat a little bit later. The thing that you'll need to do in there once you've got an account created is undertake a couple of courses. They're usually about 500 points each for a beginner course, so you need to do 2 of those to get your 1,000 points. You've also given away a code in previous sessions, so if you go back and watch the recording from session 3, you can pick up the code there and you can redeem it, and that will give you 1,000 points instantly. We appreciate how busy people are in education, particularly if you've got a lot of different classes, and that may mean that it's very hard to find time beyond all your other responsibilities in school or college to go and undertake some courses, even if you like to do that for professional development. Stage 3 has now changed. Up until this year, it's been submitting either a 2-minute video or a Microsoft Sway, but that's been an updated process, and we just want to look at that with you in this session so that you can just consider how that's going to fit in for you and how you're going to self-nominate. The process we're working towards is you moving from being an MIE to becoming the MIEE, and the self-nomination is absolutely crucial, along with getting the courses and 1,000 points. So the new self-nomination process is a 2-stage documentation. The first one, you've been given now a document from Microsoft itself. I'll click on that and I'll just swap screens to show it with you, to go through and answer some questions. Those questions will prepare you for the final self-nomination form, and that self-nomination form is slightly different to the Sway format that we've had previously. So just swap screens for you and show you that. Swapping over. So this is the document that will help you plan and structure your self-nomination. There are 3 distinct phases now, and phase 1 is about you as an individual, and it's about getting a little bit of background about how you think, what your philosophies are, how active you are in other communities. It's not something that's going to go against you if you say a particular thing in your application, and it's not assessed in any way, shape or form for your MIEE. It's just to give the person marking the application at the end a little bit more background about you. Phase 2 will be questions that are rated by machine learning, so they are just scored when they're submitted automatically through the final form. And then phase 3 will be more of long answer open questions, and then they'll be available to you to be able to go through and give a bit of a deeper explanation about just how you are using things like technologies and so forth. The form itself is, if I scroll down, quite easy to use as a preparation for the final submission. And the final submission reflects and mirrors this preparation form quite closely. You can tick the boxes in here, or you can make notes on it. It's a Word document, so you can take a copy yourself. You can store it in your OneDrive and edit it. So here are the questions about you and just your background, subjects you teach in, as in whether you've got any social media presence and whether you're affiliated with any other groups, and how active you are in education communities. Phase 2, those will be the self-mark questions, and you need to get those questions answered correctly to be put forwards for the MIE assessment panel for them to review what you might include in phase 3. They're the longer questions. Now, this is completely different, I appreciate, from everything that we have discussed in previous sessions about compiling an application either in the form of a SWAY or a video, but Microsoft have decided this year this is going to be the process. There's a lot of grids in here to detail how frequently you use different technologies in Microsoft for your personal use, but also to have impact in classroom. And don't forget, as we discussed in previous sessions, how you can have an impact across either people in your department or as a colleague you're working with in the same subject. If you're in a primary school in the UK, you might also be working with them in a particular year group or educational phase. If you do work in some middle leadership or senior leadership role in your school, it might be that that project is more far-reaching. So it will go through and ask you just how much you use those features, including things that we've covered in the previous session, such as accessibility tools like Immersive Reader and Read Aloud, and all of those things that we have been exposing you to get you ready to bring them into today, including their Flipgrid. Once you've got through the phase 2 questions, you'll come to the phase 3 questions. Now, these will be marked by somebody that's been appointed by Microsoft on the independent panel. It's really important, a bit like if you were submitting a college or a university piece of work, you've got to stick to the word limit. Anything beyond the word limit will not be read or included. So you've got a 500 character count limit for each of these questions, and these questions more closely reflect the questions that were in the previous year's applications to become an MIEE. Talking about the learners in your classroom, how you're enriching that process, also discussing, as we've just said, about how you're working beyond your classroom with others either in your school or across other schools. It will bring in your adoption of 21st century learning skills and how they are being used to support and develop students. But also, if you are in a role, and I know we've had people join us in previous sessions where they don't work with students, but what they do is they work with other adults in their educational institution, then that's fine. That scenario is absolutely transferable. And you can talk about how you've worked with those other adults to then maybe go and work with their own classes to help them bring about the Microsoft technologies to transform the learning that they're delivering. So that form itself will get you to structure your application, think about how you're going to describe what you've been doing, what you hope to do, how you've been working with your role and beyond your role. And then the second part of the phase 3 is to go to the new sites for applications. And these new application sites, they work for Microsoft Innovative Educator and also something called Showcase Schools, but you want to concentrate on the Microsoft Educator element. And that Microsoft Education element is accessed by pressing the Register Now button. When you click the Register Now button, it will ask you to create an account. That could be either associated with your educational email address, or it may be to your personal email address. And once that's set up, you can then begin to input your answers. Your answers will be mirrored by what you've captured in that preparation form, that Microsoft form that you've shared in your OneDrive, or sorry, that Microsoft Word document you've shared in your OneDrive, and then you simply transfer across and enhance what you've noted in preparation. You can begin that process anytime from now. It opened on the 6th of May, and that will close on the 15th of July. If you get your application in early, before the 8th of July, there'll be a short window where things will be checked in your final application. And if anything's detected it's slightly off, it will then be reassessed and you'll get another chance between July the 8th and July the 15th to resubmit your application. Just going to swap back over to the presentation. Has anybody got any questions about the MIE revised process at this point before we move on to Minecraft? Nope. Okay. So self-nomination document, that's the Word document we've been talking about, and it will take you through the phase 1 questions about you, the phase 2, which are the automatically marked questions, and they talk about what you've been doing and how you've been using the technology. And the phase 3 is really you expanding in up to 500 words per answer how you are using those technologies in your practice and across the other practice. What that looks like for assessments from previous years, so we work quite closely with Microsoft and they fed back to us things that have meant that people aren't considered to be a candidate for the MIE process and to get that qualification is simply just not answering the questions, or not answering all the questions, or not elaborating in those open questions at the end. Make sure that you give concrete examples of how you've achieved things. You've used Flipgrid for pupil voice. Talk about the context that you used it. We discussed that in some of the previous sessions. Make sure you get some screenshots in if you can, or get some comments from students you've worked with or staff you've worked with, but make sure you evidence it as much as possible. Sometimes it might be demonstrating only a very basic use of the technology available, so you need to make sure that you're showing not just the fact that you're opening up an application and using some of the features in it, but you've actually taken it and you've applied it to a challenge that you're facing, and how you've used that to overcome and transform the learning of others, or transfer the support for other staff that you work with. Make sure also that you are, if you're coming back as an MIE previously and you're resubmitting your application, that you're going to evidence how you've been active within the MIE community. There's nothing stopping you at the moment getting involved with the MIE community. You're already on that journey. So go explore what's out there. There's an active community in the UK, but there's also active communities around the world, and you can find them from the MIE landing page where you submit your original application and you get that form to structure your application. What that looks like on a timeline is exactly like this. So on the December this year, we launched our program, and we've been working through various sessions throughout the months, and today is going to be the culmination of that for people joining in this session and anyone watching this recording. We will be keeping the team running through June and July to answer any questions. So if you're in that team, you'll automatically be enrolled if you join up to one of these sessions. You can ask us questions in relation to your application. You can share ideas with others, and it's really to give you a sounding board and another community to tap into beyond the Microsoft MIE community. It's a turn on MIE community and a team to work with like-minded people, share ideas across your school, get to talk to people. Maybe you're the only person in your school undertaking this process and you just want to know what others are up to. Well, here's a great opportunity to do that. As I said, the process is open, and you need to make sure that you've got it in by July the 15th. If you want to have your application reviewed, and if they think you've missed something at Microsoft, they will throw it back towards you in a very friendly way and say, look, reconsider these points and improve them before the 15th, and you'll get a second chance to put your application in again. All of the successful candidates will be announced around the 30th of August, and then you'll be emailed your certificate and you'll be given your accreditation, which will last for 2 years. And if you decide then that you want to apply again, you can. If you decide that it's something you want to allow to be lapsed, that's absolutely fine. But it's up to you if you want to apply again. But if you are applying again, you need to go through this process. You've got it for 2 years. It's not going to disappear straight away. And it's something that can go with you. You can use it in your own professional development, but you might be using it in your school's digital transformation. Is there anything at this moment in time in relation to questions regarding the MIE program? Anything that you want to know about the application process or the changed application process that's come up from today's session? I appreciate that it's a bit of an addition from what we've been discussing in the previous sessions, but we're here to talk about that and make sure that you get all the help you need. Feel free to either unmute or you can pop a question into the conversation. I'll go pick it up from there. If there's not, we'll move into using Minecraft Education Edition. And that's another one of those applications that you need to showcase in your MIE application. I know almost everybody in the past that's been given the MIE status has used it in some way, and it's got so much scope to use across many subjects. Nothing at this stage. Okay, I will move across and we'll continue through. So the areas we'll look at today is we'll look at, well, why should you use Minecraft Education Edition in the first place? We'll have a very brief look at the technical setup, but we won't get too techy, but there's some things you need to consider and get sorted before starting to use Minecraft Education Edition. I know that I said if you were on the previous MIE session, we'd turn it on, that if you could get it installed for today, you could have a go at using it. And if you've got it installed, we will have a pause point where you can have a go at that. We'll look at how you're placing blocks, build challenges, links to other learning, and we'll also then look at how you get those projects out and maybe you're moving them between different schools. As always, I'll pause at a few points so you can ask questions, but before we actually get through to Minecraft itself, we'll have a look at the philosophy behind it. So that why is a question I get asked very frequently because people associate Minecraft with people just playing games, either on their own, but more than likely playing online in some sort of community. And it's a question that I face that teachers will think, well, is that really got an educational context? Well, we aren't talking about Minecraft that you might use on a gaming console or on a gaming PC. We're talking about an education version of it. And it's not strictly speaking the same thing, though the Education Edition borrows many elements from the standard Minecraft version. It's great for fostering that growth mindset, and it really does help to get students and staff thinking creatively, and it certainly develops those skill sets. And it can be through things such as problem solving or just being creative on its own, having some time to just play around with it. And don't be scared of it. Don't be scared as well that students will pick it up and run with that idea. Almost every time I have used Minecraft in school myself, it's created a really sticky learning situation. Even if it's something months down the line and we come back to a particular piece of work, students and pupils will remind me, oh, do you remember when we had Minecraft out and we built this or we created that or we had to go at solving this problem and we could model it in Minecraft? And it stays with them. So we're all trying to create that sticky learning elements. Well, Minecraft will be one of those tools to do that. I'm not suggesting you use it all of the time. You might use it for just a single project in the year. But when you do use it, it's so powerful. We'll also, in a minute, look at what game-based learning versus gamification, and there are really 6 clear principles about using Minecraft Education Edition. So gamification versus game-based learning. If we're using gamification, it's usually a situation where we might be bringing electronic devices or pieces of software into gratification for doing what we expect of students and pupils. It might be in a primary school where you can have some golden time on the tablet device at the end of today if we get everything completed in maths and English. Or if you get your coursework turned in on time, then we'll have half an hour where you can go and explore and do your own project work. In that element isn't necessarily going to enrich or add depth to learning, and that process is going to be very much about game-based learning, not gamification. In game-based learning, we're taking software such as Minecraft Education Edition, and there are other Microsoft products that will do similar things, and we're going to immerse students in an environment that makes them buy into the educational experience even more than we did previously. It might be that we've always done something on paper, and we'll look at an example of that in maths in a little bit. But now by putting it into a Minecraft Education Edition context, they more readily and easily engage with solving that problem, whereas they may have shunned that if they were trying to do it with pencil and paper. I'm not suggesting that Minecraft will replace pen and paper and traditional teaching methods, but it can enhance and complement them. And I've seen a transformation in that mindset, meaning that some really difficult to reach pupils and students can all of a sudden be a lot more open to working in small groups or with a partner, whereas they may not have embraced that if we were using traditional teaching methods. So the game-based learning means that it adds to and it creates an immersive learning experience, whereas the gamification is just an add-on to the learning in some way and doesn't really add that much value to it. The very 6 principles that underpin Minecraft Education Edition is the fact that you're going to fail. You're going to fail frequently, and you need to tell students and pupils and staff that they shouldn't be worried about this. It's something that should be celebrated. It's part of that problem solving. It's part of the growth mindset, developing resilience in learning. The dynamic, okay, if you do fail, ask for help, because more often than not, there's someone in the room that knows the answer and they'll be more than willing to tell you. Being flexible is also really crucial, that there is not necessarily one path to all this, and there may be different routes, as there is with many things that we do in education, to get into an endpoint. And we need to be respectful of everyone's journey, and you could be just as successful in getting there by following your own path compared to another one tread by somebody else. Construction and creativity are absolutely core, as we've already said, but the proud nature that I see displayed by people I work with when we're using Minecraft Education Edition, that they've created something almost as positively as creating something in the real world. It might be you're making something out of clay in an arts project, and at the end, that student or pupil stands back and they're really proud of what they've achieved. Well, it's the same in a virtual or digital world as well, and people will get really excited by what they've created, but also very positive about how they've got there. And they'll be thrilled to tell you how they've achieved it in every intricate detail if you let them. And sometimes that's something you need to rein in to keep the pace in the learning. You will also be able to situate the meaning of the learning across all different subjects. It lends itself brilliantly to most subjects in the curriculum. You have to be creative in the way that you think as a teacher, but as yet, I haven't come up with a single subject that I couldn't bring it into when the right topic or the right piece of learning comes up. It'll also promote that computing thinking mindset where you've got to problem solve, as I said, but also you've got to be systematic in the way that you approach things. You can bring coding into Minecraft as well as creating a world. And almost certainly, as I've already said, that there's going to be an empathetic element to this, where you need to teach people to be respectful of each other's creations, but you'll find, and you'll probably be astounded how empathy comes across. And if someone spent ages making a building that's part of a town, that others will be respectful of that and they won't wander over and destroy it. I'm not saying it won't happen, and you might have to have that conversation about being respectful of others' creations, but on the whole, people do have empathy for what the other person's trying to achieve, and it might not be the product, it might be just supporting them in that journey of getting there. So those 6 principles really link to that growth mindset. And the very first adopters of Minecraft Education Edition and people that work on the Minecraft team and also Minecraft mentors will all tell you that you just need to, in the classroom, accept that you will give life to this. And you'll probably launch a project with Minecraft Education Edition, but you've got to be prepared as a teacher or an educationalist to let go. And I know that can be a scary thing, but you have to accept that very quickly students will know more than you and they will become the expert in the classroom. And harnessing that and bringing that in to refocus and redirect the learning is absolutely key. Don't be scared, and I do it regularly and say, look, we're going to have a mini plenary here. Simon's group over there has managed to find out how to do this. I think it'd be really beneficial if we all could find out and do that. Give them 2 minutes to show and present that to class. The skills that students develop, presenting to others, being able to create explanations, that systematic thinking. If they can explain it, then they know it. You know that learning is secure. But you may have to take more of a back seat as a teacher because it will become very much a student-centered classroom. I know this is a lot to take on board for some people, and it might be the way that not the way that you traditionally teach. So often I get a request for where can I go to find out a bit more. We've got some books and authors here that have really talked about the philosophies that underpin Microsoft Education Edition, or also linked to sections of those books having Minecraft Education Edition in them. I'd urge you to go and look them up and find them. If you have got access to things like ebook platforms. There's lots of different brands out there. Many of the chapters that are actually quite pertinent to this whole thing are available free, so you can go in and pick them up. But you may, if you're interested and you want to find out more, you may have to purchase additional sections. Is there anything that anybody wants to ask about the philosophies or the principles about using Minecraft Education Edition? I'll just pause it a moment and let you ask questions if you wish. You can either, as I said, always put them into the conversation, or you can just unmute and speak with me. No? Okay, I'll move on. So next we'll have a quick look at some of the setup that's required. There's nothing worse than trying to use a new technology, either yourself as students, if you're doing this part of your Mie application, or you might be introducing this to a colleague and you want it to be crisp, you want it to come out very naturally, and you want the technology to be something that, as we said, enriches the learning, not something that causes a frustration either by the students and pupils you're working with or the staff. The very first thing you need to make sure is that you've got the correct level of licensing on your Office 365. If you're using the free version of Office 365 that's given to schools by Microsoft, they have something called A1 licenses, and you need to upgrade your licenses and apply them to the accounts of the students and the staff that you wish to use Minecraft Education Edition. If you want to know anything about upgrading those licenses or purchasing them, Turn It On can help you with that. So at the end, if you want to know more about that, please do let me know. And we'll also give you an email address to inquire to. If you work with your own IT supplier, just ask them to upgrade your licenses, but you might need to invest some money in doing that. The next question we get after we've got the appropriate license for our Office 365 account is, what devices can I use? Well, it's quite a wide range of devices now. Minecraft Education Edition is available on all Windows 10 devices. Sorry, it won't run on Windows 7, but Windows 7 has ended support anyway, so it would be wise to upgrade to Windows 10. It will run on Mac OS, or the couple of last two versions of Mac OS it runs on. It will also run on iPads. There's a dedicated app to run on iPads for iPad OS. And recently, in December 2020, the app launched for Chrome OS, so you can now install it on Chromebooks as well. So there's quite a range of devices there. So even if you happen to be a Google Workspace school and you've got Chromebooks, there's no reason at all why you shouldn't be able to get the most out of using Minecraft Education Edition. You will need to have an Office 365 tenancy, as it's called, and have accounts in there for your students and for your staff. But then once they open up Minecraft Education Edition on their Chromebooks, they can log in with that account and they can start to use Minecraft Education Edition. So pretty much open to most platforms now. I often get asked about Android tablets. At the moment, there isn't anything that I know of on the roadmap for Android, but if enough people ask for it, Microsoft will develop it. So if you think that you know that you've got a lot of Minecraft, so you've got a lot of Android tablets and you think it'd be useful to use Minecraft on those, do submit it on the feedback forms to Microsoft. The other thing that you also need to make sure is that everybody is using the same version of Minecraft Education Edition. You can see the version number in the bottom right hand corner, and I'll show you that when we move over to the Minecraft Education Edition screen next. If you're going to use any sort of collaborative project and you want students to work beyond their own account on their own device, everyone will need to be on the same wireless network, and they'll also need to be on the same channel to communicate. The same channel means the same wireless channel, so there's different channels within a wireless network. Some might work on long range, some might work on short range, but they need to be on the same one. Broadly speaking, most of the time the IT setup in your school will take care of that, but occasionally I know I've gone in to deliver Minecraft sessions in schools, and I've had some of the devices on either one wireless network with one name called school, and someone else has got their computer on something called guest or bring your own device. And that just stops you working together collaboratively as a group. So getting all of these things ironed out and testing them in advance of using them in the class, I would say, is absolutely key. The final bit is for your IT support, and behind the scenes there's something called ports that are used across your network. and they need to be open on certain ports to use different features in Minecraft Education Edition. There's a full list of those available if you go to the technical support page on the Minecraft Education Edition website. And there you will be able to then get those across to your IT support, and they'll be able to check that those ports are all absolutely open. So that technical setup is really key before you start to use it with a class. And if you're going to do it yourself, I would say create yourself a test pupil, have you as the member of staff, and try logging in, check it works. Because I've seen people flounder in the very first lesson because they think it's all going to work, and they get to a classroom situation, you've got 30 students with you, and then all of a sudden it starts throwing up technical issues and you've lost them. And what you don't want is that bad experience initially, because it's really hard to overcome that and it taints people's experience. Are there any technical questions at the moment around the setup element before I move on again? No. Okay. So we will now have a look at placing your first blocks. We'll look at the software itself and the different areas such as worlds and lessons and build challenges. We will today touch upon Code Builder, because you can code in Minecraft Education Edition. It's not just about wandering around and exploring environments and making environments, although that is a core part of what Minecraft Education Edition can do. And then we'll show you how to export projects out and how to import them back in again. So there's quite a bit to cover in today's session, but we'll look at that next. So I'm just going to move across and have a look at the other window. I'm just going to swap over for you. So what you'll see next is Minecraft Education Edition itself. So once you're signed in, you'll first hit the sign in page. You sign in with your account. If you've got the correct license signed and you're working in your school's Office 365 account, you will come and you'll look at a page like this. The first thing that a lot of students do is they choose their avatar over here. You'll need to limit the time on that, but if you press the button there, you can decide all sorts of things about gender, clothes, hair, and so forth. Stop them wasting too much time on that, or they could, particularly younger pupils will waste a huge amount and then move on into the application itself. You'll more than likely want to have a look at the settings. Those settings could be modified by your IT support, but if you've got older devices you're using this on, it's fair to say that Minecraft is quite a power hungry thing, and particularly with graphics, it will cause your computer to groan a bit if you're running on older software, older processors or older graphics cards. If you need to dial that down a touch, you can go into the video settings here and you can switch off some of the extra features such as fancy leaves, fancy bubbles, and that will help to reduce the demand on your computer, and it will make it run a bit more easily. At the end, you can always reset your defaults, and that's absolutely fine. In here is things like storage, but one of the other things, thinking about access to education, you can add in other languages. So if you're working in schools where you've got multiple languages, students can go in and they can toggle in their language if they're not a primary English speaker, and that will allow them to get Minecraft Education Edition described in their language. One of the last things I'm going to show you in here, you primarily use a keyboard controlled and mouse controlled system unless you're using a touch enabled device such as a touch enabled screen or using a tablet device or a Chromebook. You can additionally add in controllers, so things like Xbox controllers can be Bluetooth linked if you've got a Bluetooth receiver in your device, and then you could use the Bluetooth controller to control Minecraft as well. The touch controls are in here, but if you haven't got touch control, then that's something that's not there for you. So in addition to the languages, you've got the accessibility options at the top, and that gives you some more choices. But I'm not going to labour settings too much today, but they're there for you to explore. And again, on the Minecraft Education Edition troubleshooting page, there are some guides for that. So we're going to go into play, and in here we've got several options that are presented to us. I may go to my worlds, and as I've been building and using various worlds in Minecraft, I can see when I last used them and what I've called them. But if I come back out of my worlds a minute, you can go into the view of the library, and the view of the library will take you into pre-made lessons. There are monthly build challenges. There are guides about how to play Minecraft, and it was updated from the old version. It's much better than it used to be. And there's something called Biomes and Worlds. Before I take you into the library, you'll also see a new and features section on the front. And in here are often newly developed resources or topical challenges, such as Hour of Code will be found in here quite frequently. Or if something has been developed with somebody else, that will also be located here. So here was last year's Hour of Code challenge, and you can go and pick it up from there. So that's often in the new and feature. But I'm going to go back to play, and I'm going to go back to library. I'm, as a teacher, have not got time to develop lessons in Minecraft. And one of the great things that the Minecraft community and the Minecraft Education Edition team have done for me is they've created different Minecraft Education Edition experiences organized in subjects. So it may be that I'm teaching science, and then I've got my various disciplines in science. I'm going to go into biology. And here in biology, it could be that we're looking at a conservation and habitats topic. So we're looking at building a Minecraft world that promotes bees and creates habitat for bees. It could be that we're looking at creating cells. So we're going to make a tour of an animal cell. So we can go in there, we can have a look at the description, the learning objectives and the success criteria, and we can expand them there. And if I think that's something that I want to have a go at, I can go in and I can create the world, and then it will bring it into my worlds and I can have a go at using it. If I don't want to, I can go back through and I can explore the other science lessons that are in there. But to take away the pressure of having to create this from the beginning, you've now got yourself a set of resources that are there for you to go and pick up. You may want something that's more open than a specific topic or a specific area that you're delivering within a subject. So those sometimes fall into monthly build challenges. Monthly build challenges maybe that you just want to promote that resilience and problem solving element. And in here is something about looking at using area and volume. And area and volume, it might be an area that we look at in maths, no pun intended. And I have used that myself. I go back to my worlds. If I go and find my area and volume challenge, and I'm just going to play that, so I'm going to go into my area and volume world. It will load up pretty quickly. It will communicate with where my resource is saved. Once I get in there, we may have been looking at area and volume in a very 2D sense on a piece of squared paper. But now what we've got in the Minecraft world is the ability to go into here and look initially at how we might calculate area. So we've got area as length times width up there. And then here we've got blackboards. And on the blackboards, what I could do is I could, if I go up, I could have a look at the area I've got here. So the length is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 blocks, no, 7 blocks long by 2 wide. So what I could do is I could go back down here and I could edit the slate and I could say, well, area equals 7 times 2, and then that means that area is going to equal 14, and that might be the answer that the student gives. And after that, that's going to be locked in there, so I can come out of that. It's locked on the board for other students to see. They might want to put their name or their initials above that answer to signify who gave that answer if you've got a lot of them working in the same environment. And as a teacher, I could come back and say, okay, well, we've got the numbers, but where are the units? And they might say, oh, we're talking about pixels or centimeters, and they might give some notional measurement in there. But then we might get into, well, is it squared? Is it cubed? And then that might lead us on to, okay, so it is squared. So we're going to go over here and look at volume. So over here now, we've got some 3-dimensional elements. So you might want to, by pressing the space bar, you can go up above. See, we're going to work out now length times width times height. If they've forgotten, they can have a look up above. But they may want to look at an inverted scenario. So they're going to have a look at a pool. As well as it being able to explore it there, they could jump in and have a look, could float down to the bottom and explore it from the inside and work out that way. So there's huge amounts of scope about how you might want to use your Minecraft world. And this one is a prime example of where I could bring it into the maths curriculum without a lot of work for me, because the hard work has been done by the Minecraft education team. And that's exactly what I did. I got my students in pairs, and they came into a version of this world. I'm just going to save and exit that one. And that's how they used it. If I jump back across beyond the library, that's monthly build challenges. The how to play, if you're trying to learn this yourself, Start here is a good place to go. It will give you all the skills to get used to using different functions in Minecraft, and there's some additional tutorials there if you just want to upskill yourself. But on the Minecraft education community, there is a lot of willing people that will help you, and also on the Microsoft Education Center, there are courses and learning pathways that you can undertake as well. If we go into Biomes and Worlds, these can be really useful for just setting a rich landscape to go into. Now, it could be that I just want to have my students working in a particular type of landscape. Maybe it's oceans because we're looking at ecosystems in oceans. It could be that we're looking at rivers in geography. And in there, we want to talk about how we might get oxbow lakes forming. And we're going to talk about how the route of a river may change over time. And we're looking at erosion and silting and so forth. And all of that could be modeled here in Minecraft Education Edition. But rather than get them waste valuable learning time creating the biome, you could go in here and pick this one up. You could give it to them, and then they could all go in there. And you could have them working as a whole team in there as well if they wish. In addition to biomes, you've got featured worlds, and something went wrong. Let's see if that works again. Let's go back. Let's go in. It should load up. And in the featured worlds, it might be that you want a school environment. You may be looking at ancient Egypt is something in primary school education in the UK. So again, cutting down on teachers' workloads, we want to make this as easy as possible. Well, here's a library of resources that if you have a flick through it and you know you've got a particular area of your subject coming up, or you know that if you're trying to show this to a colleague, then you could go and you could bring them in here and show it. If you want to get to other educator resources outside of the Minecraft Education Edition software, that's available there. Before I take you into a world that I've been using, are there any questions about just the orientation in the program itself? Not at the moment. Okay. Well, I'm going to go into blocks of grass, and this is a environment where we normally go to place our first blocks. So when you're putting your first blocks in, when you introduce somebody to Minecraft Education Edition for the first time, it's all about just having a go at building your world. So over here is something I've been building. If I walk over, so to walk, as you can see, I've left the instructions on screen here for you to see. You can leave those on if you think it would benefit staff and students. But I've built myself a house. I've put in a lovely purple carpeted floor. I've got a door there where I can go up to. I could open that door. And what I've got here is a penned area, and I've got some wildlife in there. But walking back through, what I want to do is now go and extend this. And it might be really simple at the beginning. The very first thing you're going to get people to do is place some blocks on the floor, but they're going to need some blocks to place. So if you press the E button, it will take you into your inventory, and you might need some equipment in here. So here I've got some chiseled sandstone, but I want to swap that chiseled sandstone out. So I might just search up here using stone. What I would like to have instead of stone is I'm going to have some mossy slabs, because I've created a wall and I want to just have those slabs there. Once I've got everything I need, press the escape key, and then I can select something if I want. Now, at the moment, on the equipment inventory at the very bottom of my screen in the middle, you will see that there is different things selected. Now, I had got a piece of grass selected there, and I've forgotten to take that out. So I might want to get rid of that grass. If I use the left button, I can get rid of it. The right button will place a block, and then using the number keys, I can toggle to the element I want. So in here, I could lay some sort of grassy area that's going to signify where you're coming in, and that's fine. I could do that. I could go using the space bar above, and I could zoom above and have a look at exactly where I am. And I might say, oh, I want to cap my wall with that. So I might put one there, make it a bit more like stepping stones. And then that sort of sets the tone for going up across to the roof. And then I've decided that on the roof, I'm going to build another layer. So I might go back to my equipment. This time I'm going to choose some smooth stone, plonk that into there, and come back out. And what I'm going to start to do is build up my second layer of walls. And I might decide I'm going to smash a staircase through, and I'm going to come up through, but I could happily do that and carry on building. Now, that's all fine. but it's quite time consuming to build on your own. But very often that is where people will start, and you'll spend a lesson maybe just saying, design me something, have a go in blocks of grass, placing your very first blocks, and see how you get on. And that will be fine, but after a while people will get bored of that. Now you might say, just sticking with the blocks of grass, I'm going to come out of this and save it at the moment, that you're going to move them into a particular project. And it may be that in history we were looking at bridge building, and in bridge building we decided to go and pick up one of those biomes. We picked up a biome that was for a blank town, but on the edge of the blank town there's a lot of mountainous terrain. And after some very traditional research, either in paper-based research or going and in using the internet, and we wouldn't have touched Minecraft for quite a number of lessons, we might decide, look, over here we are going to say we want to build a bridge, and that bridge that you can see in the distance wasn't originally there. I had a group of us that were working in here, and we decided that as part of our blank town environment, let me go up in the air a minute, our town environment here has some walkways through it, and it's got these plinths where we can build houses, and those houses, you might decide you're assigning a student to build each individual house. You're building a community. You might be trying to recreate your local town, and you could start with a blank environment rather than this, and everyone could be responsible for the town hall building, the library, the church. But what we did is we were the team us. We researched bridges, and in the UK, in a place called Telford, there's something called Ironbridge, and what we decided to do here was recreate our own Ironbridge. So we used some scaffolding, we looked at the types of shapes, so in here comes some mathematics and also some design and technology. We looked at the fact that this span here would be load bearing at the base, so we put some concrete in underneath, and then going up even further still, we decided then we might get visitors, so we'll put a walkway in, so we then pave the top of the bridge with some cobblestones, and when those visitors arrive they might want to know a little bit more about this. So we gave them some descriptions on a slate board. And then anybody could come in here and collaborate and add to this environment and move further still. But what you've got here is a blank canvas to start from, and they didn't have to create the mountains, but what they could do is they could take the mountains, as we've done here, we stopped here, but they could continue on and then build another bridge across here, or make some sort of road going down the side, which comes back to the town. And then before you know it, you started to hit lots of different elements of using game-based learning, because there would have been a lot of resilience. There would have been a lot of preparation before you got to that build phase. And you got to the point where you had buildings such as these created, and just exactly then what they might do. Now, there's lots of things that you can do in here, and it's been lit up with torches. There's a fountain that's been created. There's a whole building with windows and doors to go and explore inside. And really the only limitation is the time you've got or the imagination of the students. And believe me, students will have endless imagination of where to take this and how to twist it to suit the particular subject that you're working within. If I pop back over to one of my other environments that I was in originally, the block of glass environment, I will show you how to bring in the coding element. If I go into block of grass, while I do that, has anybody got any other questions that they want to ask so far from what we've seen? Just loading up block of grass. So I'm in here back where I was showing you how to lay your first blocks. And you'll notice over here that we've got something called an agent. An agent can do work for you. Now, an agent can be programmed to take away some of that laborious work, such as laying the blocks around the building, and it can build your own building. If we go into what's called the code builder can be used at simplistic levels in primary schools with pupils up to age 10 and 11, where you can use block-based coding, but it can go much further than that. You can take projects and you can change them into programming languages. So in here, I have created some block-based coding to say that when I give the command walls in what's called chat commands, I want the agent to teleport to me, and then 4 times I want it to repeat the process of choosing a particular type of block I'm going to give it 50 in its inventory, and I'm going to put those all into slot number 1 because it's got its own equipment set. I want the agent to move forward by 1 and turn left, but at the moment it's not going to place a block. So I could go in here to blocks, and I'm going to say, well, I want it to place the block between 2 certain places. So I'm going to snap the blocks in. And those of you that are familiar with other block-based coding applications, you will become very familiar with adding blocks in and stacking them up. So I might say I'm going to go from element 5 of my coordinates to, let's say, we're going to take it up to 10. It's going to be a pretty short wall. But now I've got that code ready to run. And I can either run it manually here, or I can use chat command by pressing T, and I type the word walls, and then it will build the walls. But if I just come out and I run that code, then my agent would go and it would walk across and build the walls. And that's how I've achieved certain buildings like that there. If you want to take that further, you can move from block-based coding to script-based coding. So it will take what I've just created there as blocks and it will turn it into script. So if you're using this in a secondary computing curriculum, you can use, it will show you in here, you could use JavaScript or Python for your script-based coding. Or if you want to take it back and maybe you're looking at early Key Stage 3, you could toggle between the two and you can look at block-based versus script-based. And you've got quite a bit of content in here to go between. If you want to go back to code and you don't want to start them off on their own free flow project, and the projects are in here, you can have a go at some tutorials there. Some of the obvious ones to start with will be raining chickens or super dig. If you go into the super dig project, it will have a tutorial that takes them through in blocks. What that looks like is more of a guided experience, and it will show them how to dig through various objects. So you get ready and you go to start, and then you'll get the guided text at the top, and you get a limited number of block building options at the side, and then it will gradually take you through. And as you go through, it will ask you to use different elements from the blocks on the side, and it's very much of a less of a threatening experience. You drag the blocks in, and then they're there to use, and you just snap them in as and when, or snap them out. So it will bring in core elements of the computing curriculum of creating algorithms and debugging those algorithms to make sure that they work properly. And that's also part of that problem solving and resilience and learning, that once they get into the coding element of Minecraft, it doesn't always come as easy as the creative elements of Minecraft. So you're going to need to pick your scenario and make sure that you've been using other coding programs probably before you bring them into Minecraft to use it. But there's nothing wrong with doing that. If you've got students you think they will cope with that, you could bring them straight into here and have them do that. As well as doing the coding and also creating your environments, you may want to evidence progress. So something that we can do in here is we could pop in a camera. If we've got a camera in front of us, I might want to position myself in front of the camera. And then what we can do is we can click that camera and it will fizz away a bit like a very old powder camera, and it will snap and it will take a picture of my building. Well, that's great. It's me evidencing as a student what I've been achieving in Minecraft Education Edition. But just where am I going to put that? Well, there's something else we can put that into. Let's move away from my agent a minute so we can see what we're doing. You can, in the equipment, pick up something called Book and Quill. And if I search for that, I'll show you what that looks like. Quill looks just like that with a feather. I've already got it in my inventory down here. So if I come back out a moment, I might decide that I am going to move to Book and Quill. So I'm going to pop Book and Quill up. Now, Book and Quill I've been using a little bit before, but I can flick through these pages in my book. I've got Immersive Reader here, which will help to read any text on the page if I need to. I can use the arrows to move backwards and forwards through the pages, but what I've been doing here, if I use the edit button, I can write on the page. So I've created a house with 2 floors, and we'll use the agent to build a roof. And I might want to describe that to my teacher. And I can do that, but what I might also want to do is evidence that. So I could go to here, and on this page, I want to add in one of the pictures that I've taken on my camera. So if I press the plus button and I scroll down through my library of pictures, I've got a few that I've taken during my history of building this house. But here's my most recent one. And then in goes the picture of today, and there's my floor that I've been building up above. So as a teacher, I can go in and assess that progress. You can export this book and Quill book out and you can make it a PDF document, but if you do sign it and complete it, it means that you can't go back and edit it again. So if you know that students are going to add to this, but you know that it's going to be over a number of lessons, tell them not to sign it, but they can make sure that they can then export it at the end. You can pick it up as a PDF, and they might put that PDF into a Microsoft team, and it's absolutely fine to do that. So it gives you a bit of scope to evidence progress in one lesson or progress over time as a project is created, and you can do that either way. Are there any questions about how to use those tools in there? No. Okay, I'm just going to pop back out of my book in Quill. One of the other things that I've spoken about is you working on your own, which is exactly what I'm doing at the moment, but you might want to get everybody together, which was part of the technical process. So there's various ways to start hosting. You can do it before you enter a world or while you're in a world. I might decide, look, I'm in here and I want to get my students to come and join me because I want them to start building the town. And I've just been showing the introduction to the lesson. So I'm going to press start hosting. I'm going to have to confirm I want to start hosting, and it will give me a code based on pictures that are in Minecraft. So if I can rehash that code again, I've got a ladder, a bucket of water, apple, and cake. And then everyone else can enter that code. And then all of a sudden, they'll stop appearing around me, and they'll be in my world. And then we can deploy them out as teams, or they can work in small groups, and they're creating the same environment. Or I could get them to go into their own environment in groups of 2 or 3, and they could be working separately. And then at the end of the lesson, we can share that by either mirror casting to the board, or I can go and call up their world. Making sure they're on the same IP address and ports is really important. Otherwise, what you're going to get is a problem with them getting into that world. Now, I also spoke, if I save and exit, I also spoke about the version of Minecraft and how to get your copies in. The version at the moment at the bottom corner is the 1.14.50. That's the most recent build of Minecraft Education Edition. If you had someone on 1.14 and there was an older version of it, so it was 0.03 previously, then they wouldn't be able to work collaboratively. So it's really important that you get IT support in your education institution to make sure that the new version is always rolled out and updated. Otherwise, that will cause you a slight hiccup when you come to use it if you're going to be using collaborative projects. If I go back to play and I go to my worlds, let's go into blocks of grass, and I might want to go to settings. Down in settings, here's where I can decide to host as well, or I could go in and play from there. But down the bottom, your resources are saved locally on your device. It would be lovely, and it's one of the things we all want, is for projects to be stored in the cloud with Minecraft Education Edition, but they're not. They're stored on the device you're using. So you've got to, at the end of your lesson, export your world, and then it will ask to save it onto your device. Now, if you're using things like Teams, you could pop it into the team for your class, or you could save it into your OneDrive if your students are using personal OneDrives or you're using a OneDrive, or you can save it onto the network. And make sure that you teach good discipline with coding, that they either call the version they've exported today either version 1, then you get version 2. So if something goes catastrophically wrong, they haven't lost all their work, they can go back to the previous version. And that's something that they will learn pretty quickly. If they do keep overwriting the same version and they do mess it up, they'll have suddenly lost their entire project. It's also a nightmare for you. So teaching them good housekeeping almost about creating versions is something to talk about too. It's not limited to worlds, so there is a version of Minecraft Education Edition where you can go to like the ISS space station, and then instead of it being land-based, you're out in space. So one of the things you could plan is developing a new wing of the International Space Station. It will also be there for you. It's modelled. You can wander about in it, and you can try using some of the switches on the side, and you can see what they do by switching them on and off, and they will all do something in the space station. You can explore down various elements, but you can see spaces out there. So there's a window. If you want to go back up again, the space key is quite key in doing that. You can move forwards, but you can then start to go through the airlocks. But you might find an area of the space station that's not got another wing to it. What you do is you say to your pupils or students, look, this is where we're going to build, and this is where we're going to come in. And when we go through this door here, at the moment it's the hatch to the NASA shuttle. We haven't got a shuttle. So please, could you build me a shuttle? And that might be part of a space project. And in that space project, you might say, well, look, I'm going to have one team of you on the space station building the shuttle. But what I'd also like to do is consider, let me save and exit that one a minute, consider about space travel as a whole. So if I go back to the library and I go back to build challenges, down here are my build challenges. I've got a platform to build a spaceship or a rocket. So I might say, look, some of you, the space shuttle was one mode of travel to space, and we'd like to look at a more traditional rocket. So could you design a rocket here? And that might lead to looking at SpaceX. And these possibilities can go in any direction. And you do have to accept, within the realms of where you know the learning objectives need to take you, if the students are interested in a particular element and they know there's something in there that could do that, then let them take that and have ownership of that learning. It will become far more powerful, and the depth of learning is far greater by using that than trying to railroad them down your path that you had in the first place. And you may end up at a slightly different endpoint, but what you may have is still experience the same learning journey, you've still got the same outcomes, and they've moved through the same success criteria to get there, but they've decided their route of doing it. Before I swap back over to the finish of the presentation for today, are there any questions around the software itself, or anything you'd like to know in Minecraft Education Edition? No? Okay. Let me jump back over. Just going to swap screens for you now. My computer is feeling the drain of Minecraft Education Edition. It's having a little bit of a chug. Swapping into the presentation. So in the MIEE team that we have you joined into, we'll pop this slide deck in there so you can go and pick up the links. So a good beginner course in the Microsoft Education Center is building blocks of code. That will take you through placing your very first blocks, and then that will lead you into a journey, which is a series of lessons. There's 8 lessons in that learning journey, where you can go through and you can go from basics to intermediate, and you can look at how to do that. There's also the Minecraft Education Edition homepage, where you can get the technical support documents, and you can also connect with people that are using Minecraft Education Edition. There's also a link there to download and install it if you need to give it to somebody who manages your network. As far as we are in our journey of the MIEE sessions, this is the last one in the series of MIEE sessions. We had the very early introduction section in January, and then we started in earnest in February. So the team will remain active that you're joined into, and we very much want you to talk in there about your MIEE application. If you get questions around it, talk to us. We will help you. If you've got ideas that you think others will find useful, pop them in there. And that's how this community is going to continue after these live recordings. All the recordings of these sessions are available on the Turn It On YouTube channel, and you can easily get to those and watch any of the previous sessions that we've delivered. The next area is to make sure that you follow on social media people from Microsoft and also Turn It On. There's a couple of really good people to follow. Jen King is always tweeting and promoting events in the UK. She has quite a presence on Twitter, on also LinkedIn. Mike Tholson is the guru of everything Microsoft Education. sign up to him, follow him everywhere. He'll give you insider previews. So the new reading tools in Teams is something that he's been promoting in the last couple of weeks. But we're also promoting events as well that you might want to come along to, running more in-depth training sessions than what we've touched upon today, for instance, on Minecraft Education Edition. If you do want to get in contact with us, or you want to know any more about what we've covered today, you can email us at office@turniton.co.uk. I will paste some links in later for evaluation forms. And if you've got any evaluations, I would dearly love to get those. They're very quick and easy to do, just some star ratings. But the fact Turn It On isn't just running courses with Microsoft for the Microsoft Innovative Educator Expert Program. We do offer IT support in the UK. We can support with MIS systems. We offer project management as well. And if you wanted to know about things such as the licensing, we can also help get you licensing from Microsoft too. So really at this point, it's over to you and any questions you might have in regards to the session today. I'm going to post some links in for things like the evaluation form that you leave feedback for us. But really, it's up to you to ask any questions, and I'll be more than happy to support you with those if you need any support. So I'm going to start popping links into the chat now. I'll also pop the link in there for the Microsoft Education Center, and you'll be able to go and pick it up from there. Anything anybody would like to know? Anybody using Minecraft Education Edition themselves where they are working already? See somebody's typing a question. I'll just let them type in. Minecraft Education Center, Microsoft Education Center link next. I'm just going to stop the recording at this point while we're asking questions.